Hello, my name is Trish Lynch from IOHR TV. You're very welcome. Today we've taken NGO Focus on the road to the vibrant and colourful city of Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. Today we're speaking to Mr. Getahenge Kebede, who is the country director of Oxfam. Oxfam fights poverty in more than 90 countries around the world. Let's now go to the studio and hear more about the inspirational work of Oxfam here in Ethiopia. Getahenge Kebede from Oxfam, we're delighted to have you with us today on NGO Focus. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
Many people that are watching this programme will know exactly who Oxfam are. Everybody knows about Oxfam, but they might not necessarily know the story behind it and how you all started. Tell me that story, please.
Well, the story of Oxfam goes back to 1942. Very soon we'll be celebrating our centennial. Children in Greece who are starving. A few positive-minded people started thinking, what can we do when we can't simply close our eyes to children starving because of a blockade, because of the war. And then started to do something to deliver some kind of help to those children. And that's how it all started. The leverage of what Oxfam has been doing since its establishment in terms of addressing the needs of people, particularly humanitarian concern. What it took as its own mandate to really look into humanitarian issues across the globe, not being confined by borders, countries, or perceptions, going all over the world and trying to respond to those crises wherever there is a need for human, dignity. So that's how it all started.
Talking about Oxfam and your operations here in Ethiopia, it's an enormous country, 100 million people, and the highest rate of child malnutrition in the world. Tell me how you tackle this problem. Tell me the kind of work that you do here in Ethiopia.
Oxfam started in Ethiopia back in 1974. I'm sure you remember the great famine of 1974, where all the world has assembled and came together to help Ethiopia. That was how it all started. And Oxfam starts very small in humanitarian, response, and goes to, strategically looking at how the lives of people should be addressed in terms of, yes, humanitarian, yes, you feed a mouth today, tomorrow it will be hungry. And you need to look strategically as to what is going to happen after the humanitarian response program ends, or whatever crisis that brought the intervention comes to an end. That's why, the longer-term development programs also are part and parcel of what Oxfam does. In terms of poverty, to be honest, Oxfam's definition of poverty has to do with the concept of rights. It's about rights. It's an issue of rights. No one in the world should go hungry. So it's the right of every individual on earth to get access to food. That's why actually Oxfam takes the issue of poverty as a human rights issue and tries to really link its humanitarian response and development program coupled and bonded with what we call advocacy and influencing. There are several good policies. Take Ethiopia. You can refer to the Constitution, you can refer to the agricultural development policy, you can refer to the industrial policy, whatever. Marvelous policies. But unless those policies are translated into practice, that would eventually come up to be something that really allows people to feed themselves. It doesn't really matter whether you have a policy or not policy. So that's why advocacy and influencing is an integral part of what Oxfam does in every country across the world. And Oxfam is known for that.
Many people have said that the new raft of reforms by the new Prime Minister, Dr. Abiy, have changed the landscape of this country. Have you noticed from an Oxfam point of view and a human rights point of view that you have benefited from any of these reforms that he's put in place?
Certainly, maybe it is too early to say that or to give credit to this, to that, but what we see is a trend. A year ago today, before a year ago, I don't think I would have sat with you like this and had a discussion on an open, kind of media.
Why not?
Because the space for civil societies like Oxfam was closed, to be honest. And policy was, in fact, advocacy, the word advocacy was a taboo. No civil society organization was allowed to work on advocacy issues according to the law. But that law has recently changed about 2 months ago. Oxfam was very participative and engaging in getting that process also, in the process of changing that law. And we actually were at the hearing at Parliament and gave our views as to what this new law should actually look like. So yes, Prime Minister Abiy is coming into the scene. I wouldn't call it into power, but into the scene. Basically has unfolded quite a lot of opportunities.
So time will tell.
Time will tell, and it's not up to him, but it's up to each and every citizen, each and every institution that really have been complaining that there wasn't a space to demonstrate what they are capable of doing and how they are going to contribute to the well-being of this nation.
Ethiopia has been racked by conflict for the past 3 decades, and coupled with climate change and the ongoing drought, many of the smallholder farmers are really suffering. They're unable to grow food to feed their families and to make some extra money. Tell me the kind of work that you do to help these smallholders.
First of all, it all depends on how you approach. It's one thing to tell the person that I'm here to help you out because you can't do something for whatever reason. But it's something else to tell somebody, yes, I'm here to help, but you also have got a stake. You also need to be part of it. That's how Oxfam actually addresses. The approach of Oxfam is not because we have resources, we have knowledge, we have experiences across the globe, and we can fix every problem that is there, whether it is farming, whether it is rights, whether it is social services. Our belief, as I said earlier, is we are here because someone somewhere is not doing their job right. Sometimes with good intention, people come into conflict about certain things. In the pastoral areas, for example, it's a known fact that pastoralists come into conflict over grazing land, over water, because of scarcity, because of the whole, what the whole climate issue has brought into the paradigm. So how do we really help these people? The first thing would be to build their confidence that they can help themselves. So yes, it is difficult. At times we are constrained by, the surroundings, the environment that may not necessarily allow us to do what we want because of political affiliations, because of the conflict, because of other parameters which are beyond the control of Oxfam. But since we have been in this country for nearly 4 decades, wherever we have been, we are known, and Oxfam in some areas has become a household name, to be honest. Is this Oxfam? Let them go. Don't touch them. There are areas where this kind of sentiment is there.
When you and your operatives are out on the field, have you ever experienced any violence towards yourselves?
Well, not an organized one, like determined to focus and attack a particular NGO as such. But there have been, particularly in the Somali region, where there have been, like around the border with Somalia, where these extremists are operating on the other side of the border. So, the border is artificial. Anybody can
just
walk over. People speak the same language. They look alike. They have the same religion. It's very difficult to differentiate who is who. And you wouldn't be surprised if you find one of those extremists just in your compound, because they are the same people. So fortunately, the government's structure and the security management system is so robust that we rely on the coordination that we have across the international community. We share information, what's happening where. So we try to really manage our security as robustly as possible.
Tell me, if you would, about a very lovely program called Believe, where you help almost 12,000, mainly women, to harvest honey in order to make some extra income. Tell me about that story.
It's an amazing project, to be honest. The focus is on women, and the focus is on young people. Let me give you a very good example of the traditional honey production and management. Traditionally, the beehives, they are this kind of circular, like a barrel kind of thing. Traditionally, where they are put, they are hung on the top of a tree. Could you imagine a woman climbing that tree? A woman?
I wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah, and even the way traditionally women are dressed, not like, women don't go with pants, they go with dresses and everything. So how do you expect a woman to, climb a tree to harvest, supposing like we say, okay, women should be empowered, yes. Unless you really work on something very, very, very substantive and that has to really respond to the cultural norms, the very fact that we are right doesn't make us successful.
So how did you change that? So it's not at the top of the tree anymore. What did you do?
It's not on the top of the tree. There are, modified beehives. You don't necessarily have. Why people, traditionally, why they are hanging them on the trees is because that's where, they feel like it is safe. First of all, the challenge itself was from the women themselves. They never thought that they can do it. But convincing them and demonstrating that this has been done in other countries, then it has become really, really successful. And we have so many women who are very kind of prominent and have been at a national level recognized for what they have done. So about 12,000, women and young people, it's a success. Empowering women at the household means empowering, the whole of the family.
As if you haven't already done enough, but tell me what's next for Oxfam.
Yeah, what next is basically to look into the current situation of the country. And the whole dynamics has really opened up. So I think what's in the future for Oxfam is to really tap that opportunity. What needs to change is, together with implementing a project, to really change the mindset of those who are around that project as to why things are happening the way they are happening. As I said earlier, the likes of Oxfam are there because someone is not really doing their job right. I personally feel like there are several kind of resources that can be tapped into by government, by communities, but they are not very well managed, very well allocated for the right prioritization. How do you prioritize? Like if you have £100,000, whether you want to really build a school or a clinic, or you want to build a road or what? Oxfam's outlook is an integrated approach. We have what we call a one program approach. In all areas where Oxfam exists or existed, we started with humanitarian intervention. But we felt like that alone, as I said earlier, we finish a 6 months or a 1 year humanitarian support, then what? Unless people are brought to a level that they can sustainably lead their lives. And we help them right from the inception of the humanitarian program itself, bring in those elements that would make them feel that they are the owners of their faith. They are responsible for their own life, as opposed to, waiting for the likes of Oxfam every other year. Earlier the drought was, from my knowledge, it was about like every 10 years. Then it started being every 5 years. Now it's almost every other year. You can predict a crisis of one or the other every other year in some parts of it. It's predictable, it's known. So what Oxfam is really trying to do is, how do we look into all this issue in a strategic manner? How do we bring government, which is primarily responsible for its own people? It's not Oxfam's responsibility to feed Ethiopians. It's the Ethiopian government's responsibility.
Gizahinga Kabedi, thank you so much for sharing with us the inspirational story of Oxfam and the incredible work you do and the millions of people you help globally. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you for joining us for another episode of NGO Focus. Today we hear the inspirational story of Oxfam and the incredible work they do globally. Please join us again next time. For myself, Trish Lynch, and the NGO team, goodbye.